Well, good morning. Welcome to Wake Up America Ministries. It is September the 18th. Can you believe it? This month is halfway gone, and actually a little more than halfway gone if you want to be technical. But anyway, you get the point. Welcome this morning. We have a great word for you. It's God's word, so it's always good. Sometimes it may get on your toes a little bit, but hey, that's what the word does. The word goes forth, it finds its place, and it'll work in people's lives if people will only let it. So we're going to give this just a moment as people can click on, and then we'll get started, and we'll share the word with you. By the way, while we're waiting for the go, just a couple of commercials. We got the what is that at our church Friday night? The Soul Shift Ministry for the Women's Conference Friday night, the Rock Worship Center at what time? 7 o'clock. Okay, so anyway, it's on Facebook, or you can go, I think, to the Rock Worship Center webpage. You can see it there. And then there's a revival going to be at the park in Oak Park. I don't know the dates. I can't remember what the dates are exactly. But I know it was in the local newspaper, and I don't know if it's been on the TV or not. But anyway, I'm sure it's been on Facebook. So keep that up in mind. A revival, I think it's 3 or 4 nights. I can't remember exactly. I know it's at least 3. But anyway, some of the churches down there around Oak Park have gotten together and are sponsoring this. And but it's open to anyone and everyone. I think they say bring your own chair. No coolers, of course. I mean, come on now. It's a church service. They should bring in water. But maybe the weather will cooperate and it'll be nice like it is this morning. So remember those two things going on in the area here real soon. And make your plans to be a part of that if you can be. But anyway, so all right. So we got the go sign. And so we're going to be talking about this morning everything under the sun. And you remember, everybody said, oh, King David. You remember King David. Well, King David, God had made him king. He was the second king of Israel. And David was a mighty man. He was a man of war. And he had, well, the Bible says he was a man after God's own heart. And David, nearing the end of his life, he wanted to build a temple for the Lord. But basically the Lord told him, and I'm paraphrasing here, well, you've got a lot of blood on your hands. I'm not going to let you build it. He said, but your seed will. And so, anyway, so David dies or is about to die. He's beyond whatever. And anyway, here comes along his son Solomon, who is now anointed king, and Solomon is appointed to be the new king, and God directs him to be the builder of the first temple. So anyway, so we know that Solomon was given an opportunity by the Lord to ask for basically anything he wanted, almost like a blank check. And Solomon, instead of asking for riches and fame and all the things that are worldly things, he asked for wisdom. And the Lord said, you know what? He said, I'm going to give it to you because you asked well. And so Solomon, according to what the Bible tells us, was the wisest man that ever lived. And he had this unbelievable godly wisdom, and he employed that throughout a lot of his kingship, if you want to call it that, or his days of ruling. But anyway, we're going to see something this morning where he maybe didn't always make the best decision. So anyway, everything under the sun. So Ecclesiastes, or as some people call it, the preacher, and it was written by Solomon. Even though he's not named, he said a son of David, and he calls himself the preacher. And as we've already said, he was the wisest man to ever live on earth other than Jesus. Of course, Jesus, he was God in the flesh. But as far as a human like me and you, well, Christ was human, but he was supernatural. Anyway, I don't want to get off topic. So anyhow, Solomon here, he's the wisest man, and he wrote 2 books of the Bible. We know that Ecclesiastes, and then followed by that the Song of Solomon. And he shared many proverbs, and there were a ton of them that were really, really good, and they have a lot of life meaning in them. And then in this book Ecclesiastes, we see where that he goes into this kind of a comparison of things, and he wrote some things that if you just read it and you took it at face value, you would say that don't sound like the best advice. But anyway, you have to read the book, the whole book, and take it into its full context, and then you'll see what he means. And you remember that Solomon, he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. So, from a man that was supposed to be so wise, maybe that was not so wise. But we're going to see something here this morning from him, and it's going to be from chapter 1, and I'm going to read verses 12 through 14 for us, and we're going to see something about Solomon. Now, keep in mind that Solomon was a young man when he come into being king, and he had everything that a man could want. I mean, he had palaces, he had wealth, he had numerous female companions. He had the fame, because remember the Queen of Sheba actually came up to visit him. And so anyway, I want to read these verses because you would think that a man who had as much wisdom as any man had ever had on earth, that he would have been, I guess you'd say, near perfect. But let's see what he says. He says, I, the preacher, was king over Israel and Jerusalem. And he said, and I gave my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all things that are done under heaven. This sore travail hath God given to the sons of man to be exercised therewith. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit. And so, what is he saying to us here? He said, I gave my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all things that are done under the sun. Now, we're going to flip over here to chapter 2. And I'm going to do a fair amount of reading here this morning. It's verses 2 through 11. And I'm going to read something. And he said, I said in mine heart, go to now, I will prove thee with mirth, therefore enjoy pleasure. And behold, this also is vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of mirth, what doeth it? I sought in my heart to give myself unto wine, yet acquainting mine heart with wisdom, and to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was that good for the sons of men, which they should do under the heaven all the days of their life. I made me great works. I builded me houses. I planted me vineyards. I made me gardens and orchards, and I planted trees in them of all kind of fruits. I made me pools of water, to water therewith the wood that bringeth forth trees. I got me servants and maidens, and had servants born in my house. Also I had great possessions of great and small cattle above all that were in Jerusalem before me. I gathered me also silver and gold, and the peculiar treasure of kings and of the provinces. I gat me men singers and women singers, and the delights of the sons of men, as musical instruments, and that of all sorts. So I was great, and increased more than all that were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me, and whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them. I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my portion of all my labor. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. And then verse 17, so just a quick recap is basically Solomon, I guess he took this notion that, and this is just kind of me reading between the lines, but he takes this notion that, you know what, I've got all these things, but yet something obviously was missing, because it says here that he looked for wine, He looked for having a good time. He looked to women. He looked to music. He looked to possessions. He looked to everything that he can find within his power and within his realm of authority in the land that he lived, and probably beyond that, to satisfy something in him that obviously was missing. And you know, it's ironic that we still do that today. I mean, we work, we are searching for that inner peace that, you know, we all want it, we all desire it, but most of the time we don't know where to find it. And then every now and then somebody will give us a word like what you're going to get today, and we're going to tell you the secret to peace, inner peace, peace of mind, joy, and all the things that you really want, things that's going to bring you real happiness. Because in all of this, we're fixing to see here that all these things that Solomon did and all the things that his money could buy, and I mean, you know, he had power of life and death in his tongue. He was king. He had absolute power. What he said went. What he wanted, he got. But nothing made him happy. It said here, and he said, and all was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. Now, what does that mean, vexation of spirit? That's that unsettled, you know, yeah, I enjoyed myself for a little while. I had a good time while I was living in my sin. And I really had, you know, I went out Friday night, and I went and did this, and I went and done that, and I went home with this person, and we did this, and woke up the next morning, and I felt like the scum of the earth. You know, back in the old days, when I say the old days, really not that long ago, there was something that the church used to call conviction, or guilt, or a heaviness, or whatever, however you want to call it, or however you want to describe it. But that's essentially what that is, because you knew when you were doing it that you shouldn't have been doing it. And you knew that whenever you woke up that something was still missing. Yeah, you had a great time, or at least you think you did, which is pretty much what Solomon here, he's saying. He said, I had a great time. I mean, there's no telling, if you think about it, how much money Solomon spent trying to find the real answer of life when the whole time it was already right before him, just like it is for you today. The answer is already here. But what happened? What happened to Solomon? Let's look at verse 17 of chapter 2. So this is what he said. He said, therefore I hated life, because the work that is wrought under the sun is grievous unto me, for all is vanity and vexation of spirit. And verse 18 says, yea, I hated all my labor which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me. And that's what happens. We can accumulate houses, we can accumulate vehicles, and these side-by-sides that you spend as much now almost as what a good used vehicle would cost. You can have boats and lake houses, and you can have big bank accounts, and you can have everything you want to, but at the end of the day, guess what? If you got anything left when you die and you pass away on this earth, somebody else is going to spend your money and enjoy your stuff. And if you leave behind your wife and she's still young enough, hey, some other dude's going to enjoy your stuff. That's just a little humor there. And so just thinking all your stuff's not going to make you happy. Ain't one thing going to make you happy, and that's to find Jesus and let him be a part of your life. Now I'm going to read to you Matthew, it's verse, I think, chapter 6, And I'm going to just give you some insight here, because this is what Matthew had to say. It's verses 19 through 21. He said this, lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So What are we saying here this morning? We're saying Jesus, 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 Jesus. That's it. You could be the poorest person in the whole world. You couldn't have only the clothes on your back and maybe a few morsels of food in your pantry, and maybe not even a door to throw it out of. That didn't really make sense. Okay, so let's just say this. You lived in a tent. Okay, but anyway, a little humor. But my point is this. You could be the poorest person in the world, but if you've got Jesus in your heart and you know that your name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life, you're one of the richest people in the world. Because this life is going to pass away, and there's going to be, everything here is going to be left behind, and you're going to face an eternity that's going to last, as we say, forever and a day. And that's the only thing, when it's all said and done, that matters, is where you spend your eternity. So, lay up treasures in heaven. And so we're gonna go to the conclusion of the matter. Go back over here to Ecclesiastes. I hope I didn't lose my place, but I think I did. So give me just a second to find it, because I thought I marked it better than that, but maybe I didn't. Give me just a moment. I hate it when they run off, don't y'all? But anyway, it's chapter 12, and it's the conclusion of, and I know he's in there somewhere. There he is. All right, verses 13 and 14, and this is what Solomon concluded. He said, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So here's a man. He tried it all. He done it all. He had all the wealth that a man could ever want. He had every pleasure in life that could be attained. And at the conclusion of it all, he wasn't happy until he come back to this right here. Fear God and keep his commandments. So I wrote this down this morning. So what we've given you here this morning is we've given you the answer. We've given you the pathway to that inner peace and to that peace of mind and the joy and the happiness, because your happiness is not in the world. Your happiness is only going to be found in an experience with Jesus. So there's no need to experiment, to try this or that. The way to forgiveness, peace, and eternal life has been made through Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and has been revealed through his word. And that's all we have for you this week, folks. Hey, don't forget about these things that are coming up. Friday night, September 23rd, at the Rock Worship Center, 7 o'clock, the women's conference with Missy Collins and the praise and worship team. They'll be singing. They'll be there. It's going to be great. I think you'll enjoy it. So, ladies, please come and support this great work. And we ask you to remember this: Jesus is coming soon. Get ready, and if you're not ready, make it a priority. Don't wait. Do it today. Time is short. The clock's ticking, and we're out of time. So, Lord willing, we'll see you next week.